In this video, we're going to look at the 2023 Junior Cert question on government expenditure. We're presented with a planned expenditure budget on a pie chart, and we have to take this information and put it into the national budget for the year. So we should know at this stage the difference between revenue and expenditure. Revenue is income the government makes, mostly from individuals on tax, and expenditure is what they're spending on essential services such as health and education. This question we have to deal with the expenditure part. You can see that from the table that the income is already calculated at €105 billion. Our task now is to input the expenditure the government plans to have for the year ahead, and this all falls under the expenditure heading, of course. So just some housekeeping here. Any figures I enter under the expenditure heading will go on the left hand column under billion. This is because when we add them all up, it's going to be a lot easier and we won't get any of our figures confused with the 105 billion in income. Next, any figure I enter, I'll put a small coloured circle beside it to represent where I am getting that figure from. For example, when I enter health expenditure, I will put a small pink circle beside it. As on the pie chart, the health data is pink. This will make the video a lot easier to follow and you can easily track where I'm getting all these figures and information from. So we'll start with our health expenditure, which is the pink portion of the pie chart, and I'll input that into our table. I'll say what it is, which is health, and the amount is 24 billion. And I'll put the pink circle beside it so you can track along as I go. Health would be funding for like hospitals, doctors and nurses' salaries, and even other health services like mental health support and care for the elderly. Next we have transport, and that is estimated to cost 4 billion. Things that would fall under transport would be public transport and road infrastructure. Now we have other, which is for 17 billion. This could be any sort of other spending that wouldn't really have a heading. Maybe things like tourism, art and some public services. Next is social protection at 23 billion. This would include social welfare payments, pensions, child benefits and unemployed benefits. Then we have education at 10 billion, so this would be things like teachers' salaries, funding for schools, building new classrooms would all fall under education. Justice then at 3 billion. This would be funding for the Gardaí, court systems, prisons and legal aid services. Finally, we have debt servicing and EU payments of 14 billion. This would be things like payments on interest for national debt, as well as contributions to the European Union budget and any financial obligations related to EU programmes or agreements. Basically, paying for any interest on money we borrowed and providing payments to the EU. So with all these added in now, all we have to do at this stage is add up all our expenses up and total it. So this is whatever we put on the left hand column. You can see now why it makes sense to add these figures in on the left hand side. Adding all our expenditure up gives us a total expenditure figure of 95 billion, which I've put in bold here on the right hand side. Now we can see our income is 105 billion, which was done for us, and our expenditure that we just calculated is 95 billion. Both are highlighted here. I've put the income in green as this is money we've received, and the expenditure in red as this is money we spent. You can now see why it makes sense to put the total expenditure on the right hand side, because we can clearly see our income and expenditure at a glance. Next step is to subtract our expenditure from our income, which leaves us with 10 billion left over from our budget. The final step now asks us, is the government budget for the year a deficit or surplus? We know we had 10 billion left, so that is a surplus budget. And this is how you complete a budget question. I have many other junior cycle business videos on my channel, so check them out and hopefully this was helpful. Over the next few seconds, I'll have some questions appear on screen so you can test your knowledge on government income and expenditure.